The night sky burned with falling fire, pieces of a broken ship screaming through the clouds. The crash lit the barren planet like a second sunrise. Ash and smoke rolled across the empty plains where no life had walked for years. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the crater, his visor cracked and his heart pounding. He had seen many wrecks before, old drones, dead satellites, even forgotten escape pods, but never one that glowed with living light. Blue sparks danced along the metal like fireflies refusing to die. He tightened his gloves and climbed down. The air was heavy and hot, and every breath tasted of iron. He moved slowly, scanning the wreckage for survivors. His boots crunched over glass and melted steel, and then he saw it. A small hand, pale and trembling, reaching weakly from beneath the twisted frame of the pod. "Hold on," he whispered, pulling the debris aside. Beneath it lay a figure unlike any human. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight on water, her hair silver with streaks of blue, and her face, though alien, carried an expression of pain and fear that felt heartbreakingly familiar. She was alive, but barely. Ethan checked for a pulse. There was one, faint and slow. He tore open a med pack and injected a stabilizer. Her eyelids fluttered, her lips moved, but no sound came out. "It's okay," he said gently, "you're safe." Though even he knew it was a lie. This planet was anything but safe. A distant rumble rolled across the wasteland. The storm was coming closer. He looked at the sky. Dark clouds and electric lightning boiling above. Time was running out. Ethan lifted her carefully. Her body was light, almost weightless. He carried her to his crawler, a small armored vehicle half buried in dust. Inside, he laid her on the cot, closed the hatch and started the generator. Lights flickered on, filling the cabin with a warm orange glow. He cleaned the burns on her arms and wrapped her in a blanket. She didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared blankly at the ceiling. Her eyes, though alien, were full of confusion and fear, and something else, sadness when she finally spoke. Her voice was soft and broken. "Where am I?" Ethan hesitated. "You're on Karen 9, he said. "Mining colony, abandoned a decade ago." She blinked, as if trying to understand the words. "Who am I?" That question froze him. He looked at her carefully. Her expression empty, lost, her pupils dilated as if she was searching for memories that no longer existed. He realized she didn't know her own name. "You don't remember?" he asked. She shook her head slowly, tears forming in her silver eyes. "Nothing at all." Ethan sighed. "Then we'll start with a name," he said after a pause. "How about Lyra?" She looked at him uncertain, then nodded slowly. "Lyra," she repeated softly, as if tasting the word outside. Thunder exploded across the horizon. The storm was now only a few miles away. Ethan secured the crawler's shields and activated the cloaking mesh. If any patrol drones were scanning the surface, they'd vanish from radar as the wind howled and the crawler shook. Lyra stared at the flickering lights, her fingers tracing the metal walls. "This place, it feels strange," she whispered. "I see flashes, light, people screaming. Then darkness." "Memories," Ethan said, checking the monitors. "Maybe fragments from before the crash." She turned to him. "You found me. Why?" He smiled faintly. "Because I couldn't just walk away." The wind roared louder, rattling the panels. Ethan looked out the viewport and froze. In the distance, 3 small lights moved against the storm. Machines. Not natural, drones searching the crash zone. "Damn," he muttered. "Searchers already." He killed the interior lights and powered down the main systems. Everything went dark except the faint hum of life support. Lyra looked confused. "What's happening?" "Stay quiet," Ethan whispered. "They're looking for survivors, and not to save them." Through the cracked viewport, the drones passed overhead, their red beams scanning the wreckage. The air shimmered where the cloaking field hid them. For a moment, one of the beams lingered dangerously close, then drifted away. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe until the sound faded. Lyra clutched the blanket, her body trembling. "They were my people?" she asked, her voice shaking. He didn't answer. "You need rest," he said, standing. "We'll move at dawn." But Lyra didn't close her eyes. Instead, she looked at him with quiet curiosity. "You are human," she said. "Your kind. Destroyed our worlds. Why save me?" Ethan paused at the door. The question hit harder than he expected. He turned slowly. "Because maybe not every human wants to destroy," he said softly. "Maybe some of us just want to fix what's broken." Silence filled the cabin. Only the rain and thunder spoke. Lyra watched him for a long time, her expression unreadable. Then she whispered a single word before sleep took her. Home, Ethan froze. The word echoed in his head. How could she know that word? She shouldn't have. No translator implant was active. No data link outside. Lightning split the sky, revealing the half-buried wreck of her ship. Alien symbols burning faintly on its side. Ethan looked at them and felt a chill crawl up his spine. Whatever she was, whoever she had been, her story was far from over, and somewhere in the storm above, the same red drones turned, changing course. Heading straight toward his coordinates the next morning, he would realize that saving her had not only changed her fate, it had just changed his. The dawn came slowly, golden light cutting through the storm's dying clouds. The desert plains of Karen 9 looked peaceful again, though silence here always felt like a lie. Ethan stood outside the crawler, watching smoke rise from the wreckage in the distance. The night's chaos had ended, but the real danger was just beginning. Inside, Lyra sat quietly on the cot, her silver hair tangled, her gaze lost in the reflection of the control screen. She looked fragile but otherworldly, like something carved from starlight and sorrow. When she saw Ethan step in, she tried to smile, but it vanished quickly. Did they find us?" she asked softly. "Not yet," Ethan replied, closing the hatch behind him. "But they will. Those drones were scouts. More will come." Lyra lowered her head. "Then I'm the reason you're in danger," she whispered. "You should have left me." Ethan shook his head. "I don't abandon people, not anymore," he said quietly, his eyes distant for a moment as if remembering another failure. She watched him curiously, wanting to ask more, but her voice broke before the words could come. She didn't know why, but when she looked at him, her chest ached, like a forgotten emotion trying to return. He placed a ration bar in her hands. "Eat, it's not much, but it'll help," he said. Lyra stared at it, puzzled. "Food," she said slowly. "I remember. Something like this, round, white, sweet, and laughter." She touched her temple. A sharp pain ran through her skull. She gasped and almost dropped the bar. "Hey, easy!" Ethan rushed to her side, helping her lean back. "What did you see?" Her eyes trembled. "Children," she whispered, "and a voice, calling me Lythana, but everything fades after that." Ethan frowned. "Lythana," he repeated. "Maybe that's your real name." She looked uncertain. "Maybe," she said. "But Lyra feels warmer." He smiled faintly. "Then Lyra it is." They spent the next few hours repairing the crawler. Ethan scavenged circuits and wires from the wreck while Lyra watched him work, fascinated. "Humans," she said softly. "You fix things with such care, even when they are broken beyond repair." Ethan chuckled. "That's kind of what we do, fix things until they work. Or die trying." Her gaze softened. "And yet, your kind was called Destroyer by my people," she said quietly. "Maybe we were wrong." Ethan didn't reply. He looked at her, his eyes reflecting both sadness and fire. "Maybe we both were," he said. As the day passed, Lyra began to move around, touching everything with childlike wonder. The sound of the wind, the hum of the generator, even the taste of recycled air. Everything seemed new to her, yet strangely familiar sometimes. She would freeze mid-step, her pupils glowing faintly blue, as if hearing voices no one else could. "I can hear something," she whispered once, like a call from far away. "But it hurts." Ethan looked at her scanners. The readings spiked whenever she said that. "Signal interference," he muttered. "Or maybe someone's tracking you." That night, while Ethan worked on calibrating the engines, Lyra sat by the viewport watching the stars. "They look close," she murmured. "But they feel so far, I keep thinking." "I belong up there, not here." Ethan paused, wiping grease from his hands. "You might be right," he said. "But for now you're here, and that means we survive together." Lyra turned to him, her silver eyes glowing faintly under the soft light. "You speak like someone who's lost too," she said gently. He froze, then laughed quietly. "Maybe I am," he admitted. "Karen 9 used to be my home until my people left it behind. I stayed because someone had to pick up what they left broken." Her eyes lingered on him. The warmth in his voice stirred something deep within her chest, something she didn't understand yet. A sharp alarm suddenly pierced the air. Ethan rushed to the console, screens flashing red. "They found the wreck. The main ship's scanners are active," he said. "We need to move now." Lyra's hands trembled. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "I don't even know who I was, but I know I don't want to be her." Ethan grabbed her arm. "Then don't be," he said firmly. "Be who you are now." She looked at him, confused but moved. "And who am I now?" Someone who gets a second chance, he said with a faint grin. Now get in the seat, we've got company. The crawler's engines roared to life, kicking up waves of dust as they sped across the plains. Behind them, black dots appeared in the sky, hunter drones. Fast and armed, Ethan steered hard, weaving through the canyons, explosions lighting up the cliffs around them. Lyra screamed as the shockwave hit, sparks flying across the cabin. She grabbed the controls instinctively, her hands glowing with blue light. Suddenly, the entire crawler shimmered, turning semi-transparent. The next missile passed right through it without impact. Ethan's eyes widened. What did you just do? Lyra stared at her hands, terrified. I don't know, she whispered. It just happened. He looked at her, astonished. You're doing something impossible. The drones looped overhead, firing again, but their sensors failed to lock. The crawler vanished completely from their scanners. Lyra's power radiated like a soft wave, bending light around them when the danger finally passed. Lyra collapsed unconscious. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. He could feel faint heat pulsing from her skin like energy itself. Lyra, he whispered, shaking her gently. Stay with me. Her lips moved faintly. Ethan, she murmured, her voice distant. I remember fire and a crown. Then her body went still. Ethan held her close. Staring at the fading blue glow around her fingers, he realized she wasn't just a survivor. She was something far greater and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Outside, the alien fleet changed formation, locking on a new signal. The hunt was far from over, and for the first time, Ethan wondered if saving her might bring the entire galaxy to his doorstep. The night came again, cold and restless, stars hidden behind layers of dust and clouds. The crawler hummed softly as it sped across the wastelands, its cloaking field flickering every few seconds. Ethan gripped the controls tightly, his eyes focused on the radar screen. Red blips kept appearing and vanishing. Lyra lay on the cot behind him, still weak, her breathing uneven. Faint blue light pulsed from her skin every time she dreamed. Ethan glanced back at her, worry written across his face. She had been unconscious since the escape. Whatever energy she used had drained her completely. He muttered under his breath, Hang in there, Lyra. Outside, a deep rumble echoed across the plains. Moments later, the horizon flashed with light. The alien fleet had entered the atmosphere. Ships moved like shadows across the sky, silent and massive, searchlights cutting through the darkness. Ethan turned off all systems except life support. The crawler went silent. He hid under a rocky ridge and watched the fleet drift overhead. They're hunting you, he whispered, glancing back at her. And they're not stopping until they find you. Lyra stirred slightly, her voice faint. Ethan, she whispered, eyes half open. They're coming. I know, he said softly. But we'll keep running. She shook her head weakly. No. They can feel me. Her voice trembled. I am connected, Ethan frowned. Connected how? Her eyes glowed faintly blue again. Through the link, she whispered. It was built. Inside my mind, he leaned closer. Can you shut it down? She closed her eyes, her body tense. Faint electric arcs danced across her temples. But after a moment, she gasped and clutched her head. It's too deep, she said weakly. They'll find me no matter where I go. Ethan exhaled slowly. Then we changed the rules, he said, turning the crawler's power back on. If they want to chase, we'll give them one. He slammed the throttle. The crawler shot forward across the plains, kicking up clouds of red dust. The engines roared louder as he redirected power to the shields. Lyra gripped the seat beside her, struggling to stay awake. Ethan, you can't fight them, she said. Her voice trembling, he smirked slightly. I'm not fighting, he said. I'm surviving. Big difference. Alarms blared across the dashboard. 3 drones locked onto their trail, missiles launched, streaking through the night. Ethan turned sharply into a canyon. Explosions lit up behind them. Rocks shattered and fire rolled across the cliffs. Lyra's breathing grew heavier, her vision blurring. I can help, she said faintly. But I need focus, Ethan shouted over the noise. Do what you have to. She pressed her palms to the walls of the crawler. The metal around her began to glow blue for a moment. Everything vibrated, the air, the floor. Even the light itself bent around them. Suddenly the crawler jumped forward, faster than its engines should allow. Ethan's eyes widened. You boosted us, how? Lyra shook her head weakly. Instinct, she whispered. I just knew how. Behind them, the pursuing drones lost visual contact. Their targeting systems flickered with static. The crawler vanished from their sensors completely. When they finally stopped near a canyon ridge, Ethan powered down the engines and let the crawler rest. He turned to Lyra, who was shaking with exhaustion. "You saved us," he said quietly. Again. She tried to smile, but her eyes were distant. "Every time I use my power," she said softly, "I feel memories trying to break through. Voices calling my name, but they sound angry, cold, not like me." Ethan handed her water. "Then maybe who you were doesn't matter anymore," he said. "You're Lyra now, and that's who I'm protecting." For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Only the wind outside whistled through the rocks. Lyra looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "You shouldn't care this much," she said, "humans and my kind. We were enemies." Ethan looked out the window, his jaw tight. "Maybe," he said. "But enemies don't always stay that way. Sometimes all it takes is one act of mercy to change everything." Her eyes softened. "You speak as if you've lost someone," she said. He didn't answer immediately, then said quietly, "I lost my brother in the war. He believed humans and aliens could live in peace. I didn't, not until I met you." Lyra blinked. Surprised by the warmth in his voice, a strange feeling stirred in her chest again, something gentle and unfamiliar. Before either could speak, a loud crack split the air. The crawler shook violently. A beam of light tore through the canyon wall, sending rock and dust everywhere. Ethan grabbed the controls. "They've got ground units now," he shouted. Lyra pushed herself up, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "Then we fight," she said firmly. Ethan looked at her, stunned. "You can barely stand." Her expression hardened. "They want me alive. They won't kill me, but they'll kill you. And I won't let that happen." She stepped forward, her hands glowing blue. Energy rippled through the air. Outside the crawler, glowing shapes appeared, shields, forming a barrier around them when the next blast hit. It scattered harmlessly against the light. Ethan stared in awe. "You're doing it again," he whispered. Lyra's voice echoed softly, calm and powerful. "I remember this. I used to lead soldiers," her voice cracked. "I was someone powerful." She closed her eyes, a tear sliding down her cheek. "But I don't want that life again." Ethan moved beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll make a new one," he said gently. "One where no one hunts you and no one's afraid of who you are." Outside, the storm raged once more, lightning painting the sky with silver light. The alien fleet continued to scan the surface, unaware that the very weapon they sought to reclaim was beginning to turn against them. Inside the crawler, Lyra looked at Ethan, her voice soft but steady. "You keep saving me," she said. "Why?" He smiled faintly. "Because maybe saving you is the only thing that still makes sense in this broken galaxy." And as the night deepened, two souls, one human, one alien, prepared for the coming storm together, unaware that both their pasts were about to collide in a way that would shake the stars themselves. The storm had passed, but the silence that followed felt heavier than thunder. Dawn spread across the desert with pale golden light. The air shimmered with dust, and the crawler sat half-hidden under a rock overhang. Ethan leaned against the control panel, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. Lyra sat nearby, wrapped in a blanket, her gaze distant. The blue light in her eyes flickered softly like a fading star. Neither spoke for a long time. The hum of the engines and the whisper of the wind were the only sounds. Until Lyra finally broke the silence. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I remember something." He turned to her immediately. "What is it?" Her voice trembled. A hall made of light, soldiers kneeling, and a voice, deep and cold, calling me daughter of the High Dominion. It felt real and terrible. Ethan frowned. "The Dominion," he muttered. "The same empire that burned half our colonies." Lyra nodded slowly, her hands shaking. I saw my face, wearing a crown of energy. "I was standing beside a throne," she whispered. "I think I was one of them." Ethan's chest tightened. "You were their princess?" She hesitated, eyes filled with confusion. "Maybe, but I don't feel like her," she said. "I don't remember the hate, only the emptiness that came after." Ethan sat down across from her, trying to process her words. "If that's true, they're not just searching for a missing soldier. They're looking for their leader's heir," he said. "No wonder the fleet came so fast." Lyra buried her face in her hands. "Then I am the reason people died," she whispered. "My fleet attacked your worlds. I remember flashes, fire raining from the sky, ships burning, humans screaming. I ordered those strikes." Her voice broke. "I was their weapon." Ethan was silent, the air thick with the weight of her confession. After a long moment, he said softly, "Maybe that's who you were, but not who you are now." Lyra looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. How can you say that? She asked, how can you forgive something like this? He stared at her, his jaw set. Because the person who destroyed worlds died in that crash, he said. And the one I saved was someone new. Someone who cried when she remembered pain. Someone who saved my life more than once. She shook her head. You don't understand. If they find me, they'll use me again. They'll force me to become her. Ethan stepped closer, his voice firm. Then we make sure they never find you. Lyra's breathing quickened, panic rising in her chest. You don't know what they'll do, she whispered. My father will burn this world to find me. Ethan's eyes darkened. Then he'll find out what happens when you push humanity too far. The crawler's sensors beeped suddenly. Red lights flashing. Ethan rushed to the console. They found our signal, he said. A destroyer just entered orbit. Lyra closed her eyes. Pain etched across her face. They're calling me, she whispered. I can hear his voice, my father's. He's inside my mind. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Fight it, Lyra. Stay here with me. Her body shook. Blue light erupting from her veins, the air around her shimmered. He's trying to take control, she gasped. He wants me to activate the beacon. Don't let him, Ethan said firmly. You're stronger than him. Tears streamed down her face. You don't know what he is, she cried. He's not just a ruler, he's a mind network. Billions of voices linked to his will. Ethan's grip tightened. Then you fight for your own will, he said, his voice filled with fire. You said you didn't want to be here anymore. Prove it, Lyra screamed. The sound shaking the walls, light exploded around her. For a moment, the entire crawler glowed blue, then went dark. Ethan blinked, smoke rising from the panels. Lyra? He whispered. She was kneeling on the floor, breathing hard, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. I broke the link, she said weakly. But now they know exactly where we are. Ethan cursed under his breath. Then there's no running anymore, he said. We fight. Lyra stood shakily, her hands trembling. You'll die if you stay, she said softly. He smiled faintly. Maybe. But I'd rather die fighting for someone who deserves a chance than live running from ghosts. Her lips parted as if to protest. But she couldn't. His words struck deep. Outside, the ground shook as massive ships entered the atmosphere, their shadows blotting out the sun. A deep roar filled the air as the first strike pods landed nearby. Lyra turned toward the door, her voice low and steady. He's here, she said. My father. Ethan grabbed his rifle. Then let's show him what humans are made of. Lyra looked at him, her heart pounding. Ethan, if I lose control, if he takes me again. She paused, her voice trembling. You must end it. He stared at her, jaw clenched. Not happening, he said. I didn't save you to watch you die. She smiled faintly. Then let's make sure we both live. As they stepped outside, the wind whipped around them, dust rising in swirling waves. Alien ships hovered above, and in the distance, a massive figure descended from a glowing transport. Her father, the Emperor of the High Dominion. Surrounded by light and power, Lyra's body tensed, memories flooding back like knives, her voice shaking. He came for his daughter, she whispered. But he won't find her anymore. Ethan raised his weapon. Good, he said coldly. Because she's not his to take. The desert erupted in fire as the first wave began. Two figures, one human, one alien, standing side by side against an empire. And for the first time in her life, Lyra wasn't afraid of who she was. The sky burned red above the desert. The air trembled with the thunder of engines and the hum of alien power. Massive ships hovered over the horizon like dark gods watching from the clouds. The ground cracked and glowed under the weight of their energy. Ethan stood in front of the crawler, his rifle gripped tight, his armor coated in dust, the light of fire reflected in his visor. Beside him, Lyra floated slightly above the ground, her silver hair flowing like liquid light, her eyes glowing brighter than the sun. The Emperor's ship landed with a crash, sand and heat blasting in all directions. From the light stepped a towering figure of living metal and energy. His eyes burned with endless rage, and his voice echoed through the desert. Lithana, daughter of Dominion, he thundered. You will return to me, or your protector will burn with this world. Lyra's heart twisted at the sound of his voice. She remembered the throne, the soldiers, the endless obedience. She remembered being his perfect creation, his weapon. But as she looked at Ethan, she felt something stronger, something real. I am not your weapon anymore, she said, her voice steady. And my name is Lyra. The Emperor's face hardened. Then you are nothing, he said coldly, and I will erase you like a failed experiment. He raised his hand. The air screamed as a storm of blue fire erupted. Ethan dove to the side, shielding his eyes. The blast tore open the canyon behind them. Lyra extended her arms, her own light clashing with his. The shockwave rippled across the desert. Lightning burst between them. Two powers of the same origin fighting for control. Ethan ran through the chaos, firing bursts at approaching Dominion soldiers. His shots bounced off their shields. "Lyra!" he shouted. "They're flanking us." She raised her hand and a wave of energy blasted from her palm, throwing the soldiers back. "Go," she cried. "You can't stay near me. I can't control it." "I'm not leaving you," Ethan yelled, dodging another explosion. The ground beneath him cracked and smoke poured out. The Emperor's voice boomed again. "You think this human can save you, my child? He is weak, mortal, temporary." Lyra's power flared brighter. "Then let me be weak too," she cried. "Because he showed me strength you never could," the Emperor roared. His body growing larger, his armor glowing with pure energy, the sand turned to glass under his feet. He unleashed another wave of power that sent Ethan tumbling across the ground. His rifle shattered, his armor cracked. "Ethan!" Lyra screamed. She flew to him. Kneeling beside his battered body, his face was pale. His breathing rough, he smiled weakly. "Still alive," he said in a faint whisper. "But not for long if you don't finish this." She shook her head. Tears in her eyes. "I can't beat him." "Yes." "You can," Ethan said, gripping her hand. Not as his daughter, not as a weapon, but as Lyra, the one who found her heart. His words broke through the fear, and something inside her awakened. Her energy pulsed not with rage, but with warmth, light, and emotion. Her body began to shine like a star. The Emperor stepped closer, voice filled with fury. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Lyra stood tall, glowing brighter with every breath. "Ending what you began," she said softly. "You built me to destroy, but I choose to heal." She pressed her hands together. Forming a sphere of light between them, it pulsed with both human warmth and alien power. Ethan watched, barely conscious, his vision fading. "Lyra, don't," he whispered. She smiled down at him. "Thank you for showing me what life means," she said gently. "This isn't goodbye." Then she rose into the air, the light around her expanding until it swallowed the desert. The Emperor tried to shield himself, roaring in fury. "You cannot defy me." But Lyra's light pierced through his power, unraveling the dark energy that bound the fleet. Ships above began to crack and fall apart as their control link broke. The ground split open and the sky blazed white. The explosion was silent at first, pure light radiating outward like dawn across the universe. When the brightness faded, the ships were gone. The Emperor's voice was gone, and the desert lay still once more. Ethan woke hours later beneath a broken sky. The air was still and filled with soft dust. His crawler was destroyed, his body aching. He looked around desperately. "Lyra!" he called, his voice hoarse. At first there was nothing. Then a faint shimmer of light appeared in the distance, floating gently like a dying flame. It drifted toward him and settled above his hand, a soft blue glow pulsing like a heartbeat. He whispered her name again. "Lyra." The light pulsed brighter, and he heard her voice faint and warm inside his mind. "I'm here." Tears filled his eyes. "You did it," he said quietly. "You stopped them." Her voice was soft. "We stopped them," she said. "You showed me what it means to be human." He held the glowing fragment close, watching it merge with the damaged crawler's power core. The engines flickered to life for the first time since the battle. The faint hum filled the silence. From that day, the story spread across human colonies, of a soldier who saved an alien princess, and an alien who saved the galaxy, together rewriting the meaning of mercy and strength. And though Lyra's body was gone, her light remained, guiding the crawler through the stars, her voice whispering softly every time the engines roared to life. Sometimes love is the strongest weapon in the galaxy. Ethan smiled through the fading dawn. "You're damn right it is," he said as the crawler lifted from the sand, flying toward the endless light of a new day.